Hello, everybody. Well, June is arriving, and we are going to look today at the Gemini new moon on June the 6th. That is just 2 days after the new Venus star point that's on June the 4th. Wow. But a couple of things before we dive in. I am going to be teaching the level one Venus star point work. I am certified in Ariel Gutman's Venus star point work. I'm one of her teachers, and I am going to be teaching that to the nest as part of the membership. I'm adding that to the nest. My Nest community is becoming a course portal. Members get course access to courses for free. I've got all these ideas for new courses. And but so I am having a membership drive. For just $35 a month, you get two Nest huddles. You get this community, you get access to my beginner's astrology class, you get your eyes on my chart, you get discounts, and you're also going to get the Venus star point work as part of that. And I've got many other ideas. And if you stay around till the end of this Venus star point cycle, 9.5 months, you will get a big discount off my next Venus retrograde class. So join us below if you're interested in huddling up in the nest. The other thing I do want to quickly mention is that I am a guest on Suzanne Gerber's wonderful summit again that begins June the 10th. And it's free so long as you watch the videos within a certain time. There's always an offer to buy all the recordings, but you don't have to. There's some amazing astrologers on this summit with me. And full disclosure, I was on her summit last year and I had such a great time and great experience from it because she really knows how to run these things. I asked her if I could be on again this year. I'm talking about a different subject. I'm actually talking about the Venus star point. So there you go. So there'll be links for the nest and for um and as well for the summit in the description. Now then, let's dive in, but don't forget to subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. Please watch to the end if possible. Really helps the algorithms, even if you leave it running in the background. Ah, there's a little trick for you. Okay, so this new moon is on June the 6th, as I said, and it's at 16 degrees of Gemini. And oh my goodness, what a new moon it is. If your mind is already in overdrive, expect it to get worse. Well, better, worse, whatever you. I don't mind it. I love it. I've got ideas, plans coming out of the kazoo. It's quite astounding. It's a little bit exhausting, so make sure you're doing your self-care. And the cards kind of indicate all of this as well. So I'm going to share. I pulled three cards because it's such a big new moon. And so this again is the Tree Devia deck. Let me just make that a bit smaller so you can see them all. So the first card I pulled for this new moon was the Lovers, which is actually the Gemini card. And I swear I pulled it. And then the Justice card reversed, and then the Ace of Pentacles reversed. Now, the Lovers card in the tarot is not just about the lovers. If you can see the card, it's about these cosmic lovers and the angel, but in many other decks as well, there's many other kind of energies coming together. But what I like about this deck is it's got the sun and the moon there coming together. So this is really about the coming together of all opposites. All right. And so in the tarot, the Lover's card really means unions, partnerships, relationships, choices and decisions and unity. And I prefer kind of the more esoteric reading of tarot cards. To me, the Gemini card is the union of all opposites. Gemini is the sign of the twins. And we've been so separate for such a long time. But I kind of think the fact I pulled this card on this amazing new moon is a real positive kind of um, outlook. And I feel very positive about this new moon and things, but it will unfold over time. So the second card I pulled, of course, is the Justice card, and that is actually the scales of justice. And we'll be talking about Libra in this as well. Another air sign. Gemini's an air sign, Libra's an air sign. Now, the Justice card reversed is usually about kind of unfairness, avoiding accountability and injustice. But to my mind, this is saying that we'll be looking at where there's injustice and where we have not been accountable for speaking our truth. So we'll talk more about that in the astrology. But it's also the fairness and the law. So, that's a rather interesting card to pull as closing arguments in a certain person's case in New York is the closing arguments are being heard today. So we'll see. But anyway, the last card for this new moon is the Ace of Pentacles reversed. Now, Pentacles are they are earth signs, they are earth cards. This is the earth element. This is about grounding and rootedness. And the ace is new beginnings. And the fact that it's reversed to me is suggesting that, some of you may be feeling quite unstable because things are very erratic and changing at the moment, and that you may be missing chances or you may be in scarcity mode and looking at the world in from a certain perspective and not getting very rooted in your values. And so this is a really good opportunity on this new moon to change that perspective, to start expressing gratitude, to start really realizing that you are a co-creator with the universe, and start thanking your bills. Start getting very rooted. Stop thinking that you don't have enough, because the universe really does have enough for everybody. I can recommend a great book. I'll put that as well in the link, Mind Magic by James Doty. It's probably the best book I have ever read on the depth of what manifestation really means and on changing perception so that you can create the life that you want. So that's, let me stop the share. That's the cards. Now, before we look at the astrology, I want to look at the numerology, because with this much Gemini, and it's just like things are going to get loud. People are going to start speaking their truth. And the numerology also reflects that. So I'm going to my usual favorite site, the numbers, numerology dash the numbers and their meanings.blogspot.com. That's also in the description. And the 16 is a number of being outspoken, strong-willed, analytical, research, and study. So, this is really about learning a lot, researching a lot, studying a lot, but really being strong-willed and saying, I'm going to start speaking my truth. That's the real kind of crux of this 16. There may be some challenges to speaking your strong beliefs, but you may feel just driven to do it with this. When you see the astrology and I talk about it, you will realize why. But remember that everybody's going to be speaking their truth, but we are writing a new story, really. So it doesn't mean that you have to go, shouting at everybody on social media. Speak the truth in whatever way works for you, but most importantly, to yourself by getting rooted in your values and go, what's the new story of my life that I am writing? But there's a couple of quotes for you that really go with this energy. Um, Oprah Winfrey said, "What I know for sure is that speaking your truth is the most powerful tool we have." There's the well-known quote, "Speak your truth even if your voice shakes." I think those ones are true. There's another one here. "Speak your truth, especially when you fear no one will understand you. Your truth may very well contain the exact words or ideas that help someone else define what they're experiencing in their own life. You're not alone in what you're feeling or experiencing in the world. Be the voice that brings people together." I don't actually know who said that, so let me kind of quickly look at that one. Oh, this is from a blog called Cresting the Hill by somebody called Leanne. So, oh no, no, oh, the quote, of course it was, is actually from my friend Jacob Nordby, who wrote Blessed Be the Weird. So he wrote another, The Creative Cure as well. How funny that I'm quoting my friend there. So I think it was anyway. But anyway, let's move on to the astrology because, oh, it's quite astounding. So I'm just going to share the chart and then I'll talk about what's going on. Oh, I need to find my. And for those of you that have never watched my videos before, I am Louise Eddington, the Cosmic Owl. I am an author, an astrologer, a wisdom weaver. I have a best-selling astrology book out there. I'm writing 2 more books. I'm also very neurospicy, so I have a brain that works like a Ferrari, as Leonie Dawson says. I'm full of ideas, and I often talk 10 to the dozen as well. But then I've also been told that my voice is very soothing. So I hope that mix is good for you with all my ideas and the soothing voice. So I hope you'll subscribe to the channel. Ooh. Let's have a look at the chart. All right, so the new moon here, the moon conjunct the sun, June the 6th, 2024. 6 is a very creative number, so it's a double 6, right? So 6 in numerology is one of the, numbers of creativity in many ways. It's one of the more feminine yin numbers. Okay, so, it's, oh, I didn't want to do that. Sorry. And so 6 is the mother of all numbers because it represents family and connection. And, Gemini is about connection. So we've got that double 6 here in an 8th year. That's very bringing stability and balance in your life and, kind of using that power to create your abundance. And so we get an idea of what that day is about for all of us. It will be on the 6th for everybody, pretty much, I think, in the world. So I've set this chart for Eastern time, but June the 6th. So 6 month, 6th day, the mother of all numbers, which is really about connection, being trustworthy, and gentle and loving. And that fits the astrology that's coming in as well as being outspoken. But maybe you're going to be outspoken about being trustworthy, empathic, and about leading with love. Okay. So, and then an 8 year, we've talked about that quite a lot. So, yes, you can see that the new moon is 16 Gemini, just 2 days after the new Venus star point. That is kind of like Venus full moon. And she becomes evening star after this, which is the more peaceful Venus, the more receptive Venus. She is the Venus, the love Venus. I mean, Venus represents relationships anyway, but as morning star, she's more warrior Venus. This is more evening. This is receptive. This is kind of going into that kind of loving energy. Now, I've added a couple of things here that I don't normally include in the chart because it just adds to the astoundingness of it. The Venus star point is at 14 Gemini, conjunct the north node of Uranus. Venus will have moved to 16 degrees, the same degree as the new moon. That's the Sun and Venus still tracking at the same degrees after the 14-degree star point, which is the Sun conjunct Venus, is conjunct her north node in Gemini. And that's pretty kind of astounding. So that makes this kind of like a 4 times 16 about speaking out, but speaking from love. Okay. Then Mercury, the planetary guide for the sign of Gemini, has moved into the sign of Gemini by the new moon, will actually be exactly conjunct Jupiter on June the 4th, the Venus star point. And Jupiter is here as well. And Mercury's north node will also be in Gemini. It's in Gemini now as I'm recording this, but Mercury's north node is quite erratic, and Venus' north node is a little bit more erratic. So they're not always there. So this is Gemini on steroids, overload. So I'll talk a lot about that, of course. The aspects to this plethora of planets over here. Well, Jupiter's still in a trine to Pluto, but you know, that's an ongoing aspect. Now Jupiter's just moved into Gemini. But the new moon itself is square to Saturn as Saturn approaches a conjunction with Centaur Nessus. So I will talk about that. The new moon is also in a trine to Centaur Chariklo, who is in Aquarius, kind of leading the way and holding space for this new future story that we're writing. She is helping us and holding space for us to write a new story. And lastly, I'm going to say this new moon is aspecting the moon's nodes. And Black Moon Lilith is on the south node in Libra, really forming an air grand trine with Chariklo, Black Moon Lilith, the south node, and the new moon. So there's an awful lot of air here. So a lot of ideas, a lot of speaking truth, a lot of speaking up against injustice, and a lot of taking the stand with Aries North Node. So I'll talk about all of that. Oh, it's amazing. So again, reminding you, please subscribe, check out the links, check out the nest, join the summit, the free summit. Amazing astrologers on that, so go and check out that link. Anyway, this Gemini overload. Let's talk a little bit about Gemini energy, because you know Gemini is one of the most Well, I find it very exciting, but that's probably because I have a Gemini moon. So, um, and a Sagittarius stellium. So all of this is really a kind of opposing. Okay. But what's so exciting about this full moon to me, I'm sorry, new moon, is that the planetary nodes, I've only really just started working with them. So, but I did do quite a bit of research, including reading Mark Jones' new book on planetary nodes, is that the nodes are kind of like excuse me, the planet itself intensified, and the North Node is what we're moving towards. So we have the North Nodes of Mercury, the mind and ideas, in its own sign on this new moon. We also have Venus, the North Node of Venus. So our potential is to be um, um, to move to our higher self, higher kind of love, higher self understanding, higher self acceptance, higher gratitude, higher love, higher bet, it more embodied self love, and then more embodied relationships. So there, Venus is exactly conjunct the North Node on this, her own North Node, and then Uranus North Node. Well, that is radical, radical change. So what I see coming here is a massive pull towards changing our approach, changing how we voice our truth, changing the story we tell ourselves, and realizing that we are in co-creation with all that is. Now, adding to that, Mercury, as I said, is the mind, but Mercury is also the messenger, and he transgresses between the gods and humans, if you like, transgresses the boundaries between the gods and humans. Now, I don't think the gods are real, but this could be said to moving into this quantum co-creation of listening to your inner knowing that kind of comes from this inner consciousness. Nobody really knows what consciousness is. I've watched so many things where people argue about it, but we are conscious beings and we've got this inner knowing and consciousness, and we have to tune into our inner knowing, the voice of the gods, to bring it and manifest it in our human self. So this is about integration, okay, of quantum, wave, and particle, whatever you want to call it. So Gemini coming together, bringing them together. Then Venus is, Mercury and Venus are the two most personal planets. So if you think about the way the cosmos is laid out, we have the sun at the core, then we have Mercury, and we all revolve around the sun in our solar system. Then we have Venus, then we have Earth, which is the third rock from the sun, and then we have the moon, which is our satellite. So in this new moon, we have the sun, Mercury, Venus, the moon, and us on this earth, all together in the sign of Gemini. And then we have Jupiter, the natural law, the king of the gods, the planet of faith, expansion, belief, abundance, prosperity. And I'm not talking about the prosperity gospel, I'm talking about prosperity in every way. And gratitude and generosity and optimism and buoyancy. Jupiter is also exploration and adventure and benevolence and good fortune. Jupiter really also represents kind of the judge and morality as well, and the law, the natural laws. And so, whilst we may have this element of seeing injustice, Jupiter's there to say, speak up for, your moral code, your beliefs, and but also with this Gemini stuff, be open to listening. Gemini is about listening to other people's perspectives and trying to meet in the middle to a degree. But, you know, this is just beyond powerful in the sign of Gemini. So, really tune into what are your beliefs, how can you speak them with love, and how can you also remain open-minded to other perspectives and to listening to each other to come together and hopefully kind of have this meeting of all opposites. So I think that's all I need to say about the Gemini. But what the thing that's astounding me the most really is that we have not only a new moon in Gemini, but we have Jupiter in Gemini now for a year. And I will link to my Jupiter in Gemini video where I look at the whole year's journey. Um, and we have a Gemini Venus star point. And, I don't use the term often, but Venus and Jupiter are known as the two benefics. But also with the makeup of the planets, as I talked about, that we've got, the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, and us the Earth as well. This is a very personal upgrade. All right. These are all the most personal, most internal planets. So this is all about you speaking your truth, learning your truth, planning new ideas as well. The ideas will be off the charts. There's a potential here to co-create something really big from the ideas that come. Okay, and the things that you learn and the aha moments that you get. So, just think of it as expansive, and it's a real time to do some mind magic. So I really would go and get that book, Doty's Mind Magic. This is a manifestation energy. And I do associate really all of these planets that are involved in this with manifestation, so or co-creation. So what do you want to manifest? What do you want to create? All right, so aspects. So I mentioned, first of all, I think I'll leave the square to Saturn last. So the new moon is in a trine with space holder Chariklo, Chiron's wife in Aquarius. I interviewed Melanie Reinhardt on this channel, and we both kind of agreed that it feels like Chariklo's journey through Aquarius. She's obviously been in Aquarius before, but she was not discovered and did not come into our consciousness until February 14th, 15th, 1997 at 6 degrees Leo. So she is now in the opposite sign. Leo is the sign of kind of royalty, ruler, the king, but also your heart. And Aquarius is the sign of humanitarianism, the people, and so on. Chariklo is her name literally means spinner of grace. I always picture her as weaving this new story. She's pulling the threads together, but we have this free will as to whether we will step into this grace and write this new story, both individually and collectively. And so also she's the new moon and Chariklo are in this air grand trine of ideas and innovation and communication with Black Moon Lilith in Libra, which is conjunct the South Node in Libra, which is what we're moving away from. And that is injustice in relationships, of all relationships, and also releasing a lot of the shame we have or where we have been shamed collectively as well. This is boding really well to my mind, to write a new story of equanimity and balance and harmony. And I'm not talking about any political system here. I'm just talking about generally kind of bringing things more into balance and more together. In fact, I actually kind of have, and I think that that constitutions could be rewritten or there could be more amendments to them, not just in the US, but everywhere. And people really going, well, this is not working, these big gaps and this big separation, something has to change. And I think this new moon is a really good start to that, but it's co-creative. It starts with you. Okay. And it's aspecting the nodes, of course, as well, of parts, which is our path to Aries, North Node, kind of that divine inner child being reborn, being very strong, saying, I know who I am now, and I can speak my truth. Okay. Now then, the last one I wanted to mention is this square to Saturn in Pisces. The biggest the biggest personal journey I've found with Saturn going through Pisces, which is what I'm going to speak to because I'm not a predictive astrologer, is, the removal of some walls we may have put up, but also the revealing of these self-limiting beliefs that we all have. Everybody has self-limiting beliefs. It's the ones where you say, I can't, I always. Um, um, One of my clients, she's going, but I don't know how I'm going to do this. And I'm going, don't say that. Ask an open-ended question. Say, uh, how am I going to do this? What else is possible that I'm not seeing here? Open your mind to the universe to change the ideas. But self-limiting beliefs are really things that hold us back from co-creating this new story of ourself, the life we want to live. Well, Saturn is conjunct Nessus on this new moon, and Centaur Nessus has been revealing generational trauma and generational trauma patterns for a long time, but it's been intensified as Saturn moved into Pisces, getting clarity about how, the place you were brought up in may have impacted you and the trauma patterns, or to quote a great blog on Nessus, it's Amalthea blog. Anyway, she talks about it's like how your ancestor was brutally raped by invaders or hoarders, and that's been kind of held in the epigenetics of your family lineage. So this is not all about kind of, maybe it could be as well about childhood trauma because these patterns tend to play out. But also, another example is, for example, I lived in a war zone as a teenager in Derry, Northern Ireland, where, it was, the Catholics against the Protestants, but really it was the Irish against the British. And there was so much hate and murder and killing each other. And it's revealing all this othering and hating each other and power dynamics and how they've impacted you individually. So this new moon is probably going to bring up more of this so that you can write a new story again. Big, big opportunity to just write a story that breaks radically with the story that you believed, that you were told, that you heard, that was instilled in you, and be open to writing this new story. Okay. And then speaking it. All right, so I'm just going to go straight to the symbols because this is getting quite long already. So the Sabian symbol, the Rudyard quote of the symbol is the head of a robust youth changes into that of a mature thinker. It's been reworded a little bit by others to say the head of health dissolving into the head of mentality. But this, it really is about mature thinking, kind of taking all that information and the patterns and bringing itself to higher wisdom. Okay. I'm not going to say that there should be no emotion in it because I don't believe that, but this is more about bringing all the pieces together and creating this new story of wisdom from all that you've learned. Okay, so that's how it really feels to me, this symbol. Okay. So, we need in this new time. So that's another Gemini thing to me, really. Bringing together all opposites. I talked about it briefly at the beginning. This quantum realm of realizing that science and spirituality work together, that religion and a belief and trust and faith in whatever you believe in also works with kind of a more scientific approach, that we can't have one without the other. This is a flip. That's another great book, by the way. Jeffrey Kripal, Kripal. I'll put that in the link below. I'm on a second read of that one. So, but this really is about changing that perspective again. So I kind of like that head of health dissolved into the head of mentality because it's kind of dissolving, the um, all that inner knowing into something you can write about, to speak about, that kind of thing. Okay, so but it's definitely about maturity, and that's very Jupiterian too. So let's go to John Sandbacher's symbols. By the way, he's one of the people interviewed on the summit that I'm involved in. So link below on that one. So I'm looking forward to that one. So Gemini 17, we always go up. The omega symbol is deep in a cave, a large albino snake. And this, he says, is manifesting and sensitive. And the degree is about healing and rectification, which really kind of means making things right. He says, you sense a pure wisdom deep within yourself, but it can be elusive and difficult to express. You are highly attuned to the mystery and wonder of existence and refuse to allow it to be watered down or rationalized or portrayed as lesser than it is in any way. Your purpose is to stay tuned to spiritual realities, even in the midst of the tremendous pressure which the mundane exerts. And to my mind, the mundane there is this materialist view that everything is just mind and control and domination and so on as we flip into this new paradigm. So the Chandra symbol for this degree is a magic coin that has only one side. You can't spend this coin, it's just a surface with nothing behind it. It's like everything else, just an illusion. This degree is aware of the insubstantial nature of most everything that we hold to be precious. And being aware of this, it seeks that which has an enduring and eternal value, finding it at last in pure consciousness, which has transcended attachment to any relative, lesser, and illusory values, those bought and sold with one-sided coins. This is the pure wisdom of the albino snake. this is this new moon. I've started calling myself a wisdom weaver because I tend to talk about everything that I've learned from other people's wisdom. I soak it all up and try and express how it works together. I have been called, sorry, that's coffee. Blech. Anyway, it's because after my dental surgery, my mouth's not working right. It will be soon. Anyway, this is a real wisdom weaving new moon. And what that means is taking all the wisdom from within and from all you've learned all your life and what you continue to learn and weaving a new story. So much potential, so much potential for a radical change in perspective. So make it count. Much love. Mwah. I will see you next time.